Hey everybody, let's talk about how to make construction games last forever. Every genre has games that last forever. You can play Dota forever, you can play Street Fighter forever, you can play EverQuest for EverQuest, it's right there in the title. And you can find people telling you how to set it up. How do I make my MOBA last forever? How do I keep people coming back to my tournament fighter? How can I make my massively multiplayer game survive for another year? Find all of these articles, they all have different things to say. Not because the articles are wrong, but because each genre is different. Each genre has a different set of approaches to make the games last longer. But people generally don't answer that question about construction games. Nobody really says, how can I make my construction game last longer? How can I keep players coming back to my construction game? I guess it's because it's just too niche of a genre. Minecraft and Roblox just aren't big enough to be on anybody's radar. Yeah, I think that people think of those as survival games or multiplayer casual games or something. They're construction games. Now, a construction game is anything where the player can construct something that has a physical and mechanical presence. That includes Minecraft and Roblox and many Lego games. It also includes things like Dwarf Fortress and RimWorld and Kerbal and Stormworks and most of the Zachtronics games. And all of them share a couple of characteristics in terms of how to make players keep coming back. Characteristics that are a little bit unusual. They're not the same as you would find if you were trying to balance a MOBA. So let's talk about them. First, let's cover the intrinsic motivations. Intrinsic motivations are important for any kind of game, but they're especially important for construction games. An intrinsic motivation is simply a motivation that comes from the play of the game itself rather than being imposed from outside. So it's not like, this week's new skin, or here are the daily quests, or your buddy wants to run a mission with you. No, intrinsic arises from the play of the game naturally. So you've just sat down behind your desk and you spent an hour or two building a car. So here's your desk and here's your Batmobile. There's your Batmobile. Perfect Batmobile, right? You've just finished your Batmobile. What's next? What do you do now? Do you drive your Batmobile? Do you upload your Batmobile to the server? Do you share it with friends? Do you put it into a contest? Do you integrate it into a society or something? I don't know. What's next? What's your big ideal here? That's thinking too far forward. I don't mean what do you do later. I mean, what is the player thinking they want to do right now? They've just put the finishing touches on the Batmobile. Their brain is freeing up all of that RAM and going, I finished. I'm almost finished. I'm done with everything but the little busy work and detail stuff. What is their brain thinking at that exact moment? Well, if you want to run a forever game, their brain should be thinking, I want to build another car. I can build a better car. I can build a different car. I can build a car that can do other things. Let's build another car. Yeah, before they're even completely done, they need to be thinking that they want to do it again. This is something that a lot of construction games just don't do, right? Like, I'll give you an example. There's a new game called Main Assembly. It has some amazing visual construction tools. It's not voxel-based, really, and it's got a lot of these really, really nice spline-based hull chassis stuff, so you can build really pretty cars in this game. But once you finish a car in Main Assembly, there's really no urge to build another car. Chances are pretty high that you built a car because you either had to do a specific mission that they assigned to you, in which case you probably just use the same car over and over and over, or you built a car because you wanted a car that looked like a specific thing, like the Batmobile or something. And those are fine, but once you're done with those things, you're done. You don't immediately think that you want to build another car. And the reason for that is because there is no inherent compulsion. There's no forward paths that you can see while you're building the car or while you're testing the car. The game is very module based, right? The engine is the engine. The wheels are the wheels. The handling is the handling. There's no difference between different cars of the same size class. So there's not really any sudden think like, you don't think, oh man, I want to build a long haul truck, because there's no reason to build a long haul truck. It performs the exact same. There's no such thing as fuel. There's no such thing as efficiency. And traction, well, sure, if you want to build a car that can go on dirt roads, just switch out the wheels to the other wheel. There's no concern about the frame needing to be different or the engines needing to have a different torque or anything like that. It's just flat. You've done it and you're done. Now, if we were to compare this to, say, Stormworks. Stormworks, you can build a boat, right? And as you're building and testing the boat, because obviously you do it simultaneously, you build and you test a little, then you build a little, test a little, right? As you're building the boat, you realize, oh, I could probably make a boat with better torque. Or, oh, if I laid this out differently, I could probably make it have better stability. Or I could make it turn easier. Or I could make it go faster. Or I could have more fuel. Or I could have just better fuel efficiency. Or, lots of things that are happening as you're building the ship. And as you're testing the ship, you could be like, oh, it would be cool if this could handle nasty weather. Or a different mission. Or 2 missions at once. Or a different climate. These are all things that exist in the game world and constantly offer themselves up, bit by bit. Like, oh, there's another cargo mission just popping up on the screen, available for 10 minutes. You want to go try it? If not, no big. If so, maybe you want to build a vehicle, variant of this maybe, that can do cargo missions. Oh, look, there's a rainstorm outside. It's only going to last like 5-10 minutes. Do you want to build a vehicle that can go through the rain? And you can, of course, manually do these things. They're not ephemeral. You can tell it to always have wind or always have no wind. You can tell it to spawn in cargo missions and that sort of stuff. But the point is that the ambient existence of the world and of your vehicle construction bay or whatever wherever you're building stuff, they constantly offer up avenues, new things that you might want to try. And you can't help but see that the vehicle you're building right now cannot fill all of those possibilities. So you're always thinking about how you could do more or different or better. This means that you can build like 8 boats in a row and feel pretty satisfied, and then come back tomorrow and build 8 more. Because every time you build a boat, you have different priorities. You have a different setup. You have a different set of ideals. Everything is always changing bit by bit by bit. And as you learn more, you're going to be cycling back to those original missions and realizing that you could do them better because now you know more. Now you can set up your boat even better. Now, in theory, you could do something like this in main assembly. There are things like forklift plugins and stuff, so you could like build a forklift in main assembly. But the problem is that there is no place in the world where that is obviously applicable. I never build something in main assembly and then go, oh, well, how do I use the forklift? Because there's nothing to use a forklift on. I could theoretically build a custom map full of forklift challenges. But it's not an immediate offer. It's not like I don't build a car and then immediately think, oh man, I could do forklift challenges with this. Because there are no forklift challenges. I would have to manually create them. And it's the same with everything else in that game. The lack of any inherent complexity to the vehicle construction in terms of the mechanical parts means that there is no sudden realization that I could do something cool with the gas system, or I need to optimize the thrust or the torque or whatever. It's all just flat and one note. And that's because, like most of these games, main assembly is a tutorial. So in main assembly, it's like, oh, well, here's the here's a cliff. Can you get over the cliff? And this is something that you're going to see a lot in many kinds of games. Like, oh, can you build a puzzle car that can get you over the cliff? And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess I can. Okay, I'm done building the puzzle car. But there's this gap. You're done with the puzzle car, and you're testing the puzzle car, and congrats, your puzzle car worked. But you're not going, I can build a better gap jumper. You're not going, I can build another car. I want to build another version of this car. You're not thinking that because the result is binary. You either get across the gap or you don't. The extrinsic factor here, they have told you that this is the specific gap you must cross. You don't have to be better at gap crossing. There's no point to being better at gap crossing. And that means that you're not rolling with those intrinsic factors. You're not looking to the next car that you're going to build. You're just kind of passively accepting whatever they're throwing at you. That can be compelling for 5 or 10 hours, but when you're done, you're done. It's not a forever game. The same is true of every kind of game, whether it's a programming game or every kind of construction game, whether it's a programming game or a base builder. It's always the same, right? You build your base, and then you're like, I bet I could build a better front gate. If only I could go back and build a better front gate. I want to try a base where I do this different layout idea I have. Or I want to try a base that doesn't have this problem I'm facing, or has a problem that I'm not currently facing. Let's try a base in the Arctic. Let's try a base with just one settler. Let's do all these fun ideas that we're having. Because as we're building our base, we're seeing all of these possibilities foment in our heads. Oh, what if we did things a little bit different? I want to build another base. I want to build a different base. And sure, the gameplay is also building the current base, but there's always that forward-looking factor where you're like, the next base I build, I'm gonna whatever. Same with programming games, right? The next program I build will be able to do whatever. I want to build it better. These are the characteristics of a forever game, and you can see them in Minecraft and Roblox as well. You're always, whenever you build something in those games, you're always thinking about, oh, I learned a lot while I was building this or whatever. I want to try again. I want to build something else. I have this new idea because the games constantly offer up such a variety of possible vectors. I want to build another Minecraft base, but this time I want to try and make it with some redstone skylights or something. I want to build another Minecraft, town. I want to try and build a whole town. Or my Minecraft game, I want to try and build something out of, explosives and see whether I can blow up the creepers before they blow me up or something. You just get these ideas and you roll with them because that's the nature of a forever game, a forever construction game. Setting this up can be quite a challenge, but the biggest, most important factor is your mindset. And basically, you have to get out of that Boolean mindset. The player is not trying to build a car that can jump over a hole. That's just not going to inspire them enough. But this is the Craglands. It is full of holes. Would you like to try and get across it? Oh, now they're interested. Especially if the Craglands get worse and worse. You drive in here, this is okay, it's not too bad. Oh no, now we're in trouble over here. Build another car that does it better. These are all things that, it's going to vary depending on the dev as to what their approach is going to be. Some devs are more level focused, some devs are more mechanically minded. But those are all things that I think we can do better than we're currently doing, just because right now we're not thinking of the long-term play. We're not thinking about how to lure the player into wanting to build another thing. And we should be, because that is the meat of a construction game. That is what will make the player keep coming back. Now, that isn't to say that you have to only use that. There are plenty of extrinsic factors that you can use if you like to do those sorts of things. You can build yourself, a A workshop integration system is really cheap, for example. So you can try and build yourself a system where the players can share their constructions via the workshop. And of course, when you do that, naturally a community will arise around sharing creations and doing challenges and stuff like that. It can work very well. It's extrinsic and it's nice and fluid. You can also get really aggressive with that. Mario Maker is all about sharing levels. It is like 99% sharing levels. And Roblox is similar. There are a lot of people who play Roblox that never create anything. Or they just create one very tiny specific subset of things. Like, I just create skins, or I just create buildings. These are all fine as long as your game is set up specifically to allow for that kind of distribution, for that kind of difference in how players absorb and emit different kinds of content. These are obviously very complicated ideas. These extrinsic factors need to be planned just as carefully as the intrinsic factors, but they have the added disadvantage of being expensive. You've got to actively maintain them, and that can be a real chore. So my suggestion is to start with the intrinsic stuff. If you can get the intrinsic stuff right, people will get enthusiastic enough, at least in theory, that you'll realize that you can start to move into the extrinsic stuff. And the good news is, even if your intrinsic stuff is kind of crap, it's still going to be better than 95% of the games on the market, because 95% of the games in the market don't do it at all. Like Stormworks. Stormworks has a terrible intrinsic motivating system. It's not awful. It's like, C+. But because there are so few other games on the market in that microgenre that actually do it at all, it's still way up there. It's still really, really compelling. And this is one of the situations where you don't have to get it right. You just have to try and get it at all. Because even if you screw it up, you can polish it, you can fix it, you can patch it up, and it's still going to be better than what everybody else is doing. According to me. Anyway, let me know what you think. Bye.